Put your faith in the light.
Hello guys, welcome to another one of my videos. This is Lightblade and we're back with more PTR testing with our Burger King looking Paladin. This time we'll do our first look into Everbloom. Blizzard made a lot of changes to this place, so it's not the exact same thing you had in WoD. Mostly some bosses got juiced up with more mechanics to make them harder, and let me tell you, Blizzard succeeded in that part. That place is very challenging and will be the first weeks whenever 10.2 gets released. Okay, so as for talents, I'm going to be using the same build I used for my other testing. This is just a simple Templar Strike build, nothing super min-maxed, it's just something that works, and I kind of feel a bit more comfortable using Templar Strikes because it feels a bit better with our new tier set, It gives you a bit more control over your judgment so you can get those extra procs of the tier set bonus. And well, with that being said, let's go into the key. Okay guys, so here we are at Everbloom. So this place is, in my opinion, going to be one of the hard dungeons next season. Trash and bosses are kind of hard alike. For example, this first pack has 2 casters of note. The first one is Cultivator. You want to kick that in Rage Growth. And then there is the Naturalist. Naturalist is your normal caster mob that's going to do like bolts on your tank and also does an important cast that you have to interrupt, which stuns someone if not. So it's the Grasping Binds, I think. Choking Binds, those things. So we finish off this pack really easy. They just burst it down. The small plants really don't do anything, by the way. They just are fodder mobs and just auto attack the tank. After that, we're going to go and kill this Naturalist here. I'm trying to pull that Stinger on the left, but it doesn't seem to care. He's just flying around. Stingers are a dangerous mob. You're gonna see why here. Our Boomy and our Hunter are going to die a few times because I forget to dispel. So the Stinger applies that circle that is a poison debuff that tanks really hard. You can see it's dropping people from 25% to 0 at this level of health. So it's pretty dangerous, You're going to always want to come to this place with a poison dispel because if not, people are just going to die here. It's a similar situation as House of Atonement. If you remember in Shadowlands, you really needed to go there with a curse dispel. If not, it was kind of undoable. This part is extremely dangerous without a poison dispel. I wasn't actually dispelling at the start, I wasn't really paying too much attention to that, but eventually I started dispelling people so they don't die, Okay, so yeah, Stingers, dangerous. After this build, we're going to go to another notable mob, but we're not going to kill it because you're never ever going to play this mob. This is a big tree that is padding around this route, So you see that tree on the left? Do not pull that guy. That guy is horrible. He does an AoE root that spawns stuff that you have to kill to get rid of the root. They have a lot of health, and he does it pretty often. If you don't kill it in time, he's going to put up a bunch of tornadoes on top of you that do damage and also silence you. So you basically can't kill your root at that point. So it's really an awful mob to play. After that, we're going to come here and play this part with a bunch of casters, and we're going to also get another mob of note, which is the Mender. As the name implies, it's going to try to heal his trash mobs. And on top of that, we're going to fight a bunch of Naturalists, so there's going to be a bunch of bolts going and pelting your tank on top of those Grasping Binds. So a lot of people are going to get stunned if people don't use their AoE interrupts, AoE stuns, kicks, and all those things. There's just too many kicks in this part. Getting a Prot Pally or Demon Hunter that has Sigil of Silence is going to be extremely valuable here. Even 3 mobs have a bunch of casts that you have to stop, and you can't really stop the bolts, so your tank is always going to get pelted by those, You gotta stop the important casts, Choking Binds and the Regenerating Waters, And you really don't have enough kicks to do it, especially with the group I picked. Sadly, I picked a weird group, so we don't really have a lot of interrupts. We have the Boomy Beam that has a very long cooldown. We have Range Interrupt from a Hunter, which has a longer than normal cooldown. And we only have 2 short kicks, which is me and Demon Hunter. But we also do have some other tools, like AoE stuns, like Demon Hunter stun, and I have my blind. On top of that, I have my normal stun. This place is going to be requiring, like I said, well, not requiring, but value of a Prot Pally and Demon Hunter are going to be huge here because of that Sigil of Silence and the Prot Pally shield that silences as well. Anyways, we finish up this pack with not any major incident. This part is pretty simple. This first boss is also going to be really easy to do. It does have a ton of health. That is because he has a vulnerability phase that you can almost keep the boss permanently in, you know. I say hero here, but I don't think our hunter understands us because he has like a number. His name was in Russian, so I don't know if he got English. Anyways, we do this part. And okay, so this boss has a bunch of abilities that are not very complicated, to be honest. He does those whirlies on the ground that do damage, just dodge them. After that, he marks people with that little yellow arrow and drops that green little plant on the ground. Don't stand in it, it does damage, just leave it there. You try to put those plants not close to the water because the water is going to start, well, eventually the phase 2 will start and a bunch of like orbs are going to come from the water. You have to kill those orbs. If an orb reaches a plant, it's going to create an ad. You really don't want it. So this is phase 2. He just stands there and does nothing. You gotta kill these orbs and keep him in this phase as long as possible because he's taking extra damage. The thing is, you have to choose between killing orbs and doing damage to the boss. So it's kind of tricky, you know. He's taking extra damage, but you kind of have to focus a lot of damage to these little orbs, and it doesn't really make sense, but try to like split your damage as best as possible. Eventually I just give up and start doing damage to the boss and killing the ad, you know. Okay, so that's the ad that summons if the orb touches one of the green plants. Doesn't really hit hard, you know. It also dies pretty fast, so it's just kind of a fodder mob in this fight. Anyways, like I was saying, you gotta split your damage in between the orbs and the boss. Try to do as much damage as possible. Here I have cooldowns, so I'm gonna just do a bunch of damage to the boss here and commit everything here. And try to also AoE these globes, you know. Try to keep the boss in this phase as much as possible. But like I said, it's tricky because, well, splitting damage is annoying. Anyways, I think we're just gonna let the boss get some orbs and like revive, you know. I think we can do more damage if there is not so many of those globes going down. Probably the strat is going to be like pop all cooldowns whenever it's vulnerability phase, get as much damage as possible, and just let them eat some orbs after that, you know. We get a bunch of those plants, but they're not really hurting our tank a lot. Maybe in Tyrannical the thing changes. This is, by the way, the easiest fight of this place. The others are a lot dangerous. Actually, the next two are dangerous, and the last one is actually a walk in the park. Oh yeah, by the way, as any tree boss or tree mob, this guy also has a frontal breath, so you never want to be in front of the guy, you know. And you can't really stop the breath, so just don't be in front of the guy. Or you'll die, you know. It does a ton of damage in just a Fortified setting. I'm sure it does a bunch of, like a one-shot if you are in Tyrannical. He's going to go to another one of those damage phases, you know. So I'm just gonna commit damage here on the boss and just ignore kind of the orbs, so we can finish him off. He's very low, 8%. He should die. Those little swirlies in the ground are kind of blend with the color here, you know. There's a bunch of foliage there, so it's kind of hard to see. Anyways, we finish up the big tree boss, and now we're gonna go to the next part. So this next part is particularly dangerous for range players because the mobs are going to jump and going to do whirlwind on top of you. If you're in that whirlwind for more than 2 seconds, you're probably going to die. The thing does a ton of damage. The mob I'm talking about is this berserker, you know. This guy hurts a lot, and I mean it, a lot, especially on those range players. I'm gonna pull a bunch of them. There's gonna be a lot of berserkers from jumping around. Range players are gonna take a big hit. There is my judgment. It's bugged. It's pulling stuff on its own. Blizzard really needs to fix that because it's going to cost us here, I think, our lives eventually, because we pull a lot of stuff, you know. Yeah, there goes the hunter. You see that he was in the whirlwind for like 2 seconds, less than 2 seconds, I think, and he just insta died. The boomy as well, you know. 1 second he was almost dead. Those berserkers are not messing around. On top of that, they do a dot on your tank. No, actually the dot comes from the abomination. They put a poison dot on your tank, and they also, those abominations do an explosion of AoE damage, which cannot be stopped. They cannot be stunned or anything, so healer just has to heal it. So there's a bunch of damage going around, you know. I die here because, like I said, I pulled that extra mob with my judgment. I shouldn't have done that, but kind of a bug on Blizzard's part, so what can we do? Eventually we go back and finish up this pack. Just Bob the hunter, so if he gets jumped, he won't die from the whirlies, you know, the whirlwind. People are still dying. These berserkers are a nightmare, you know. On high fortified, I think these guys are just you have to be constantly moving if you're at range. You can't just sit there. You're probably gonna die in 1 second if they spin on you. Anyways, we're gonna keep going. There's, as you can see, a ton of berserkers in this part, so this is pretty damn dangerous. On top of that, we have Naturalist. Naturalist, like we said before, he's just going to pelt our tank with bolts and also going to do those choking binds, you know, so they stun people. We also have that Abomination again. He's just going to do AoE damage passively with the explosion. A healer just has to deal with that, you know. I'm trying to focus down this berserker so he dies as fast as possible, you know. It's really annoying for our ranged players to do damage if the thing is living and just jumping around. High fortified, yeah, these packs are like extremely dangerous. People are probably gonna find ways to not play them, you know, like do these types of skips. Sadly, here this berserker for whatever reason puts us in combat. So I hear the grunt, you know, the thing does a sound. So it is in combat with us after that Demo Hunter CC ends. So here we're just gonna kill this pack, you know, kill the berserker. We'll try to focus the thing down as fast as possible, get rid of it, because in this small clumped area, it's very dangerous. On top of that, we have a Mender. Mender's heal, so try to kick that thing as well. And the Abomination that's going to be doing its normal AoE damage. After this, we kind of wipe a few times and eventually hit the boss, you know. There's one more pack after this that we're going to try to pull. It is a big pack, and there's a bunch of like dangerous mobs in this part. You can actually do kind of a bunch of parkour on the side and try to get to the boss without pulling stuff, you know. We're gonna pull stuff here and we're going to wipe before this boss. So I'm going to just fast forward a bit and get to the boss part. Okay, after wiping a bit to that trash back there, we get to the bosses. Just for the sake of simplicity, I'm gonna call one boss Blue Guy, the other Green Guy, and Big Monster Things. Okay, so Blue Guy and Green Boss have two casts that you have to kick. One is a stun on a person and does damage over time on top of that. Blue Guy has a cast that heals a target of one of the bosses, you know. And the Big Guy does that explosion and damage on the tank. Whenever he does that big circle, tank's going to take a bunch of damage and it's going to leave a bunch of green stuff on the ground on everyone's location. So we tried one strategy that wasn't working. We tried cleaving the big monster thing on top of the Blue Guy, and it didn't really work because there was just too much green stuff on the ground for us to actually do damage. So we swapped strategy after the wipe, you know. I'm trying to die here because this is basically a wipe, you know. The Revitalize also went off in this try, and yeah, the boss healed. You can actually purge the Revitalize, you know, if you have an offensive spell. So if that happens, there's still ways of salvaging this. So we're going to go to our next attempt. Okay, and this attempt we're going to swap the strategy. Instead of tanking the big monster thing on top of the Blue Guy, we're going to tank it on top of the opposite guy, and we're just going to single target focus this guy. Remember, Blue Guy has the Revitalize cast. You gotta kick that, and I think that's the most annoying cast to do because it heals the bosses, you know, so you don't want that to happen. But like I said, you can also like offensive purge it if you have any problems with that. Anyways, we're focusing down the Blue Guy. Oh, by the way, they both do that AoE pulsing damage thing on top of them, so there's always damage going on the whole group, on top of the green stuff on the ground, on top of dodging swirlies, on top of like a bunch of bolts pelting the group. The bolts are like, you can't really kick all of them. Probably if you have a full melee group, you can do a rotation to actually kick most of them, but still, a bunch of are going to go off. On Tyrannical Keys, this is going to do a ton of damage to your group, no matter what. Luckily, in this attempt, we kill the boss, and we kill this guy, you know, and we can move on to focus down the other caster, and eventually focus down the big monster thing. Casters are the most annoying thing because, well, you see those bolts pelting the group. They do a ton of damage in a fortified setting. Imagine how much damage they're going to be doing on a tyrannical setting. Sadly, our Boomy dies here, so we have to like slowly kill this guy off, but since there's only 2 bosses now, it's a lot easier to do. Tank is still getting railed because of the big monster thing. It does a ton of damage. The charge on top of the melee attacks on that thing, it does a ton of damage. So the order we're killing the bosses, I think it's the best because I think Tank can handle the damage instead of the group taking a bunch of extra bolts from the 2 casters if we kill the monster thing first, you know. The thing we were missing here is there was no one kicking the stun from the green guy, you know, and that was kind of rough on the group. That thing. I just kicked the green stun thing. I'm trying to keep my tank alive, you know. I'm throwing some heals on his way because he is taking a ton of damage. Oh, by the way, the 2 caster guys don't have an aggro table. They just throw bolts randomly around, so yeah, you can't do much about it. As soon as the caster guy dies, but this fight becomes a lot easier. It's just tank and spank on the last guy. Still does those charge thingies, but nothing that we can't handle. This was one of the changes the Blizzard did to the bosses, by the way. This big monster thing didn't do the charge in Waters of Draenor. He only did an explosion around him, and if you were in that explosion, you got knocked back. But that was it. There was no like green puddles on the ground. There was no charge. Now it's a bit more challenging, you know. I kind of hate that they made those green puddles, like everything is green, you know. They're putting green on green, so it's kind of rough to see sometimes. Even the foliage on the ground has similar texture to the green stuff, you know, so kind of annoying. But still doable, you know. Like I said, just tank and spank after you kill the 2 casters. The only person taking damage here is the tank. It doesn't seem these swordies do a lot of damage on impact, because I kind of stood there like and took the impact damage but didn't. But you take a lot of damage when you stay in the thing, you know, if you stay on the ground, the poison ground. But the impact doesn't seem to do a lot. Yeah, I'm sure I took a hit there, but it didn't do much. After we finish this boss, we're going to go to the next area, which is the mage section, you know. The mage section is pretty dangerous. Those mobs are really dangerous. They can one-shot you. There are fire mages, there are arcane mages, and frost mages in that part. Frost mages are the easiest one because their ability is not like super punishing. It's punishing in combination of the other mages' abilities. Okay, we're gonna do this first pack. It's just an ice color. Ice colors, well, as the name implies, they are the frost mages. They do frost bolts, and they do big orbs that are going to go to the middle and are going to stun people if someone touches them. Just gonna focus down the ice color and kill it. That's the ability. Cold Fusion, he spawns a bunch of those white orbs around him. They're gonna go to the center, similar to Amalgamation of the second boss of the raid, you know. If you touch one of the orbs, you're going to get stunned by 4 seconds. Remember, human, racial, and bubble work to remove that stun. It's a magical effect, so Bob doesn't work. Sadly, but you have options to remove it. Okay, we're gonna go to the next pack, and this is a Pyromancer and a bunch of assistants. Pyromancer is, I think, the most deadly mob here because he does Pyroblast cast, you know, and it's massive damage. If one goes off, someone's going to die. Luckily here we can kind of deal with all the kicks between me and the Demon Hunter. We can cover all of them. If you have a 2 melee player rotation on the Pyromancer, you should be able to get all the Pyroblast done. If one goes off, though, if someone's going to die, that person has to immediately pop a big defensive. He also does this Cinderbolt salvo, you know, it does damage to random people in the group. Nothing we can't take. After that, we're gonna pull the other flavor of mage, which is an Arcanomancer. Arcanomancers do this spatial disruption. It normally goes on a person that is in range. So there we kind of played the mechanic wrongly because everyone was in melee and we didn't have time to move from the Arcano thing. So remember, range people be kind of far away from this guy, so you have time to dodge the big purple swirly. After that, he also does Arcane Blasts. If one goes off, the next one is a lot faster and a bit harder to kick, you know, but You can like do, I think a single target rotation of kicks can handle this guy, so it's not a big deal. It's only when in combination these guys are dangerous. The next pack, we are going to pull the 3 types of mages, and you're going to see how dangerous it is. It's another spatial disruption. Range are still in melee, so they die, you know, sadly. By the way, all the abilities of these mages are going to be in the boss fight, and in the boss fight they're going to be ramped to 11, you know, they're going to be a lot more punishing. We can see there that the Sigil of Silence does nothing on these mobs, but I'm sure the Pally Shield still like interrupts them. Here we have that Cinderball Salvo in combination with the Spatial Disruption in combination with the Ice Orbs that you have to dodge. Sadly, a Pyroblast goes off because my kick is on a 3-second cooldown and I can't save myself. I could have bubbled, you know, but I was thinking maybe someone's going to kick that thing, and no one did. Anyways, after this, we die. Everyone wipes and we just try to do that pack again. As you can see, in combination, those mages are pretty deadly because there's a ton of stuff that's going off. But like I said at the start, the group composition I picked was kind of wonky, especially because we don't have like 2 melee to do a rotation that like shuts down most casters. We have the long kick from the Boomy, the Solar Beam, and we have a long range kick from Hunter. So it's only me and the DH that can do like short kicks and stuff. This place is very, very kick intensive. Like I said, in the 3-boss area, Prot Pally, Demon Hunter, Tank are going to be pretty good in this place just because their ability to control packs and just keep stuff like kicked and silenced and interrupted. I'm gonna wait to the rest of the group to get here. I'm gonna try again. It looks like their Canomancer didn't reset correctly, so it's like they're hanging at 40% health, so this time it's going to be a lot easier because we can just get rid of one of the mobs. The spatial disruption that Arcane Mage does is really, really hard on range, you know. So having him die first is really helpful here. But this pack is deadly, you know. You can see again there, Sigil doesn't work on these guys, sadly. Okay, we go again, kill the Arcanomancer. I'm watching this Pyromancer as well. I don't want anyone to die from Pyroblast. If I can't kick it, I'll save the person that is going to get targeted. There I sack the healer. So if I didn't sack him there, he just died. But the sack saves him. And I can kick the next Pyro. I'm hoping the Demon Hunter kicks the next Pyro, but I don't think he does, you know. So I have to like... He's targeting the Hunter, so I just lay on hands the guy. He also uses Turtle, so he survives there. Nice play from him. Frostbolts are not a big issue. It's just the Pyros that we have to take care of. I get, sadly, there frostbolted to the face twice. But I'm just healing, you know. Okay, so this boss is a kind of combination of all the mages we already did. She has 3 phases: Fire phase, Arcane phase, and Frost phase, and she like rotates between them. I think she does Frost phase first. Frost and Fire, you know, she combines the abilities of the Fire Mage we already seen. He does a similar ability to the Salvo, but this time instead of just doing damage to the group, it's going to do damage to the group, and it's also going to leave a bunch of red swirlies on the ground that do a lot of damage if you stand on them. There's also going to be the Ice Collar ability, the orbs, but there's going to be a lot of them. And there's also going to be the spatial disruption of the Arcane Mage eventually, you know. And the thing is no longer just going to drop and just go to a location and explode. When it explodes, it's going to drag you in with it and it's going to pull you. So the strategy here is try to get pulled in between the ice orbs, in between the fire puddles, so you don't die. You're gonna see it's kind of rough to do. Okay, so there you see the combination of abilities fire and ice. Someone is already dead because there's a ton of damage going off there. Whenever she does the same combination with the arcane on top of that, it's going to be even deadlier. Okay, she's in arcane phase now. She throws the arcane thing, you know. I'm trying to position myself so I can like get pulled into the orb, but don't hit the ice things. Sadly, people get hit by ice and die, you know. So we kind of wipe in this attempt. Was the first attempt. I don't think many people have seen this thing because it's just new in the PTR, you know. And this fight is totally different from what it was in the Warlords of Draenor, by the way. This boss was much more simpler in that era. This is a big change that Blizzard made to this fight to make it harder. And they did make it harder. I gotta admit that. It's pretty challenging. Everyone's dead. I'm thinking maybe I can finish this. Maybe I can heal me and the tank. I could have used bubble there, but I don't think I would have survived the salvo and the arcane thing, the fire thing eventually. You know, eventually I was going to die. Okay, so we're gonna fast forward to the next attempt where we actually kill the boss. Okay, so this attempt we actually killed the boss. I think everyone knows where to allocate their defensive and all those things to survive. But still a rough fight. You know, this first Cinderbolt Storm is a lot better because everyone presses defensives. Anyone is like under 20% health, so it's more manageable for the healer. Now we just have to deal with the ice orbs that appear. Don't stand on the fire. The punishing parts of this fight, like I said, is whenever there's the arcane phase, because arcane phase just makes you, like, pulls you into stuff you don't want to stand in. So you always have to be pending on where your range players are at, you know. It's always going to pick a range player, so you have to watch where the arcane thing is going, so you get pulled in that direction. There I got trolled a bit because of that little lamppost, you know. They have like a green bind around it, and that green bind actually has a physical, like, you can actually get stuck with it, you know. So I got stuck there and I took a bunch of extra damage. I get hit also by the ice orb and I just bubbled out of it immediately. I don't think I was in any danger there, but still, I just wanted to make sure I didn't die. Now we have Cinderbolt plus Arcane Pulse. Arcane Pulse is behind us. I got pulled into the fire thing. Almost died there. But we survive. Boomy dies. I'm gonna res him. Boss is at 30%, so if I res him, we can probably finish this fight. Actually, you guys know we can finish it. There's another Glacial Storm. Firestorm plus Ice. And I think we get one more of the Ice Storms, but with a Pulse. Yeah, there's the spatial thing, the spatial arcane thing. We get pulled. I'm trying to dodge that thing, but it's kind of rough to do it sometimes. I just human racial out of it and survive. Healer's dead, but the boss is also dead. And now we go to the chill boss, you know. The first boss is easy, the last boss is easy, but the two bosses in the middle are pretty rough to do. Okay, we're gonna fast forward to the last boss. This guy is, like I said, really easy to do. It's mostly just a big ad fight. Try to kill the ads so you don't get overwhelmed, because this guy is going to make them grow and become like a lot tougher to deal with. And just as I said that this is going to be easy, the hunter dies. And the only thing you have to worry about this fight is the big huge cone of damage that this guy does in the frontal, you know. So don't get hit by frontal and you shouldn't die. All those like mage casts, fire things on the ground are actually helping you, so you don't really have to dodge those. The mages are doing that to kill the plants. So remember, kill all these little plant thingies so they don't grow and you get overwhelmed by ads. Even as a 4-man, this guy is just melting, you know. He's 50% health. He doesn't do much when he's doing that Genesis cast, so don't have to worry about anything. We get a big ad there, but even the big ad just gets melted by our damage. It doesn't really matter that much. Like I said, really easy. Just cleave the boss down, kill any ads that you see, and you should be totally fine with this. We have cooldowns in like 19 seconds, so we can finish this off. And I don't think we need the cooldowns. The guy is just melting. Oh yeah, the tank moved it to the fire patches. So if you see those fire patches, you can bring the boss there and it's going to take a lot of damage. I don't know, maybe the scaling is a bit off because the thing just died, you know. We didn't do much here. We just do some abilities and it just died because of the mage help. And well guys, that's going to be Everbloom. You see, this is the first look of Everbloom. It's kind of a new dungeon for me as well. I didn't really play a lot of WoD back then, so a lot of things kind of hazy on that front, you know. They also added a bunch of new abilities on those like two bosses in the middle, you know. They made it really hard. Okay, now let's go back to Baldraken to see the recount of the damage done in the dungeon. Okay, so after finishing the dungeon and getting all the trash that we had to get, this is the recount of damage. As you can see, it's not incredible or anything, you know, it's actually pretty bad because we died a ton in that place. Those two bosses in the middle were kind of a nightmare. Anyways, we can still take something from the damage recount. You know, we got Divine Storm on the top. Obviously, that place is pretty heavy on trash on the first part, but eventually it becomes like a small, like 4-pack pools and all those kinds of things. Final Verdict is on the top as well there. This is mostly because we had to redo a lot of the fights and kill bosses, you know, so Final Verdict, it got a bunch of use there. Then we have Blade of Justice at a comfortable 10%. Like I said, your Blade of Justice is going to be between 10 to 14% of your damage, depending on how much you spam it and the density of mobs in the dungeon. And the other thing we can take from this is Wrathful Sanction is a really good tier set. You know, it's doing almost 6% of our damage there. It's doing a ton more than things like Final Reckoning or Searing Light, you know, and those things are like last point talents of our tree. So yeah, Wrathful Sanction is a pretty good tier set bonus. And well guys, that's going to be all for the video today. I know we didn't time the key, but I still wanted to show you guys all the changes that happened in Everbloom, you know, all the stuff that Blizzard updated and all those like tweaks they did. I'm going to make another guide on this place, a bit more condensed one, you know, like a week before Mythic Plus launches next season, so you guys can know where to use your defensives, what utility you want to bring, and all those kinds of things. And well guys, I hope you enjoyed the content, and if you did, subscribe to the channel and leave a like on the video. Thanks for watching everyone.